everybody, this is Kathy of Crowder's Mountain, North Carolina, back with part 4 of our pretty pink flamingo. I hope you're enjoying this series. It's been fun to work on, but we're about to wrap it up. So in part 4, we're going to talk about how long I cure the paint before I seal it. We'll talk about sealing it. I'll show you what I use and what kind of rollers I use, and all kind of things like that. And I'll also show you how and what I use to hang my barn quilts with. And that'll be the end of this series, so they'll end up being 4 parts. So don't forget to watch the other 3. Let's get started. So before I put the sealer on this one, I wanted to see if you could see the difference. This one has been sealed. It's got 3 coats of sealer. And this one has not been sealed. Now, it's primarily exterior paint and quartz, but some of it is samples that says exterior. I'm going to seal it. I seal them all. I just think that extra protection does not hurt anything. It keeps out the mold and mildew and things like that, not just paint fading, but the mold and the mildew, and if something gets on it, it's easier to clean off. That's just my thoughts. Some people don't seal them if they use exterior paint. And that's their choice. That's okay. But I do. And I put 2 to 3 coats. Sometimes I only put 2. If I know it's going to be hanging under a porch or something, I'll just put 2. But if I don't know, like this one, I'll put 3. So let me show you what I use. And I'm going to just put this one aside. If y'all want to take a screenshot of that so you can see what both of them look like side by side, in case you're deciding what color to paint yours. Okay. Let me get set up and I'll be right back. Okay. Not sure I've shown you this before, but I keep my sealer in this little tub with a lid on it. But inside that, I've got my roller, and I use just that little 4-inch sponge roller. And let me show you what kind it is. I may have already shown you this. But it's for cabinets, furniture, doors, and more. And it says all paints, enamels, varnishes, and urethanes. So I love this little roller. And I always keep an extra tray just in case. Because I don't want to use anything else. I've seen people use other things that seem to work for them. But a brush didn't work for me. It wasn't even enough. And then the other kind of rollers, the cloth and stuff, was just leaving lint and streaks. So this foam brush just seemed like it's doing the trick. But I also have this little container that I put inside of that other one. And I put it inside of the bag. So you can see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it hasn't dried up. But I'm going to put some more in it. And I use Varathane Ultimate Spar Urethane. Water-based, exterior, crystal clear semi-gloss. You see it says exterior and water-based. This is the only stuff that I use. See, it says mold and mildew resistant it seals out the water, but it's UV protection too, so it's not going to fade as much. And people say, well, you don't seal your house. No, it costs a fortune, I would imagine. But have you ever seen the paint fade on the house? I have. You ever seen it fade on siding? I have. We get some hot summers, and that sun just bleaches everything. So anyway, I just pour what I think I'll need. I've got a couple more to do, so I'm going to put a little bit more in there than what I really need for just one. Oh, and this lid, I got 5 in a pack off of Amazon. And see this, if it don't come out good, you just got this little air vent, if you can get it open. Alright, it's got a little, there you go. It's got a little hole right there just for an air vent. And then this just pops up. But it seals real well. Now I got 5 in a pack, but I don't put it on my other cans because I pour my paint into the bottles that you see. And the bottles are from lowlavefa.com. And use code Kathy with a C, 10, and get 10% off. And I wished I had an Amazon store. If I knew how to set that up, I could put all this other stuff in there for you. But I'm sorry. One of these days I'll figure it out. Alright, now what I start doing first is going around my edges. The same way I did with that sealer. I go around the edges first, and then I'll quickly go around here because I don't want that urethane to dry and puddle up. Just like I told you with the sealer, you don't want it to dry and puddle up on you. So I just dip that in there and roll it on. Now I'll do up and down this way on this coat. And the way the light's shining on it, I can tell if I've missed anything or not. Going to make sure I go around those edges again. And it looks good. So, you know how I went this way. Now the next coat, I'll turn it around and go this way. And I don't think y'all need to watch that. But if I think about it, I'll tape it. But anyway, I'm going to put the lid back on here, snap it shut. I'm putting my roller back into my baggie here and twisting it shut. I'm putting this back in here and zipping it shut. The air's all out of it. And I'm putting it back into my box. And snapping it shut. Now, I'm going to do that 2 more times. And now remember, y'all remember, we got, if I can flip it over, we got the tape on the back, so our back side's going to stay clean. And one other thing that I do, in case I missed a little spot and it puddled up on the edges, I just take my finger and go around it like that. You could take a little stir stick or anything like that if you wanted to, but my fingers are just fine. And you can tell my gloves are dirty because I use them until they just tear all to pieces. No use to waste. All right. When I get the other, now I wait between 24 hours between coats. So, you know, this video, it has been about probably 2 weeks in the making because I don't just stick with it all at once. So anyway, tomorrow I'll come back and put another coat on it, and then the next day I'll put another coat on it. And when that dries, I'll be back to finish up. I hope y'all are enjoying this. Stick with me to the end. Okay, we have our 3 coats of sealer on here, and now we're ready to hang it. Now, you remember that I had, and I'm going to find, I've got to find his head. His head's right here, and I'm going to mark it. I'm just going to put me a mark there so I don't forget that, because that's where our hook's going to go. But you remember that we put this tape on the back, and if you can see around here, let me bring you over there and let it get focused for a second. There you go. You see these marks here? That's where I painted along the edges, and that's where the sealer dripped down. So now, let me bring you back up. So now we're just going to take the paint off, and I actually can use this same tape again on another one, and that's what I'm going to do. I can use the other side of that tape. Put it over here. See there? Now look how clean the back of that is. Doesn't that look nice? Now you could come along and put another coat of sealer, and I used to, and sometimes I still do. I'll put tinted primer. I'll put a little gray in my white primer and go over it, or just paint it with gray paint, because we've already primed it one time. Alright, so now let me find the head again. It's right here. And if I don't make a mess trying to show you this, I'm going to show you how I hang it. Get the stuff out here so I can show you. Alright, now I'm hanging it on point, remember. So, this is how I do it. You see these? These are called D-hooks, and they're like for pictures. You can hang probably, I don't know, maybe 20 pounds, 20, 30 pounds on it. I hang 2x2s on there with this. And I'll hang a 3x3 if I know it's just going, you know, somewhere it's not going to be in a lot of wind and that kind of thing. But you want something a little bit heavier, like those big D hooks. Hang on a minute, let me show you one of them. sorry. Didn't think about this till I was talking about it. But that's the big D hooks. And they go like this. And you can put it on your board that way. Now, other ways to hang them, if you're putting them on a building, we just use the wood screws and just screw them right into the building and put one on the top and the bottom. Don't have to worry about the wind. If that thing blows off, we got bigger problems than the barn quilt, because that means the whole building come down. But anyway, and we have used masonry screws to put them in the side of the house, which our house is brick. So we just, y'all probably saw that hummingbird that I've shown before on the side of the house. And we just put that in there with the masonry bit and screws. But anyway, back to what we're going to use on the 2x2 is just a small D hook. And I put the flat side down, and I'm making sure these corners kind of line up with my board, so that way I'll know I've got this hook on straight. Now, if you don't want the hook showing, when we hung one for our daughter up above her mantle in her new house, and I lowered it down like this, and so the little tiny nail just holds on to the back of it. It's not flat up against the mantle, the wood on the mantle, but you can't see this hook from there, so you might want to think about that. But anyway, what I just did is I took the pencil and I just made my little marks. Now, if you don't have a Dremel, you won't have to worry about doing what I'm doing right now, but I take my little Dremel with the little drill here, and I just get it started. That just saves some elbow grease to me. All right, now these little hooks come with 1/2 inch screws. Well, on my 1/2 inch board, I'm always afraid the end of the screw is going to come through. So I ordered some 3/8 inch, and that just works perfect for these 1/2 inch boards. So all I got to do then is just screw it in. I got that on the Lazy Susan that I showed y'all earlier. So I can't get a real good grip. There you go. Now, see that? And right on the edge, like this. You can hang it up like that. Can you see that? And I could just hang it over on my wall. Anyway, these things come in little plastic bags, and I've got these little plastic jars, and I had thought about putting paint in them at one time, and I thought that's not going to help. So I knew that that'd be just like those little sample jars where it'd get paint would dry around the top and flake off into my paint. So I decided not to do that, and I got those Lole Vete bottles, which are wonderful. So anyway, that's the end of part 4. So hope you enjoyed this series. And if you hadn't noticed, this is the 4th video in the series, the 4th and final one. And in part 1, we talked about the kind of wood and how to prep your board, the primer that we put on it. Let's see, we talked about, I think that's what, the sealing up the edges, that sort of thing in part 1. And then in part 2, we actually drew our pattern on the paper that I always tell you about. And then I drew it on the board. And we talked about the heat erasable pens and that sort of thing. And in part 3, we actually taped it up and painted it. And I told you about the way I cut the tape and that sort of thing, and how I dry it and the brushes that I use. So, and then like this one, part 4 was sealing it up and hanging it. So I hope you enjoyed that, and just let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you subscribe.